York's classic rock, Q1043.
I say good morning, bonjour. I thought he was French, to Azazel Jacobs. And then I'm sitting here thinking, well, if he's French, is it Azazel? But I got it right, Azazel. He is the director of the just wickedly funny, sarcastic movie French Exit, which is now in theaters. All I got to tell you is the star is Michelle Pfeiffer. That's all I got to tell you, because you have got to see Michelle Pfeiffer as a penniless Manhattan socialite who has run out of money 12 years after her husband dies. And she thought she was going to die before the money ran out. She borrows a place from her friend to live out her years in Paris, along with her son, and also a cat named Small Frank, who may or may not have the spirit of her late husband. All right, so this is a kind of not actually ha 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 laugh out loud funny movie, but wickedly funny and brilliant, just brilliant. And welcome Azazel Jacobs, who, luck would have it, is on the Lower East Side, so he's actually a neighbor of Q.
Yes.
Welcome.
Well, thank you so much. And born and raised New York City, so far away from France, but great to be here.
Okay, so how did you get Michelle Pfeiffer?
Perseverance, luck. I mean, I was lucky enough to get the script to her, which the script, like you said, the film is so particular. The fact that she responded and wanted to meet after the script meant I felt like, okay, that this is a really good sign, because this is very much either for you or not for you. And the fact that she read it wanted to keep having this conversation. Like, okay, this is someone that could be looking for the same thing as I am, which is hopefully to make something really different, something that we hadn't seen before.
It's this droll sort of humor that it has, and I hope you don't take this the wrong way, because I mean it in a complimentary way. It's a Wes Anderson-ish feel. Is that good for you or not good for you when I say that?
No, I think that's fun. I think the thing that I share most with Wes Anderson is that we probably love a lot of the same films. And I would say that our influences are probably very similar. And definitely when it goes back to some of the kind of screwball comedies of the 30s and even of the 70s, I could see a lot of cross relationship in terms of just our similar interests. But I think, and I know that the book got that as well. When Patrick DeWitt came out with the book, that there was a bunch of comparisons to Wes Anderson. But in reality, I think that surreal sense of humor and that kind of melancholy sense of humor has this incredible, beautiful history for so long, and you can just keep diving farther and farther back to find it.
What was Michelle Pfeiffer like?
Perfect. I mean, she was just, I know we're used to people saying these kind of things, but it was a true delight in my life. A really, really important time. She turned out to be as hungry as anybody that was just beginning in the business. And that was something that was so exciting to see, that after she's someone that's proven themselves over and over and over again was still hungry, looking to going to places that they hadn't gone before, and then went to that without fear. And maybe she talks about having fear, but it never held her back from trying to be as truthful and precise, and even with such an extreme character like Frances Price, trying to find the empathy, trying to find the cracks beneath all the surface level that sometimes these people that have been given everything, have in front of them.
Well, it just proves that, money doesn't buy happiness, not that the lack of as well.
No, it just, it definitely affords a totally different thing. And I understand sometimes if this is a story that has a wealthy family in it. And sometimes for some people, unless it's Mr. Burns, they just don't want to see it. But I think that for me, one of the strongest things in terms of bringing someone down to size is by humanizing them, and that includes the wealthy.
Playing her son, by the way, Lucas Hedges, right, who has been in quite a few things of late, and his role, he basically is just kind of like playing along in life, not making his own decisions. He's so overpowered and overwhelmed by the huge personality of his mom that you feel that he doesn't even feel anything. But I thought, delving a little deeper, and I'm sorry I did not read the book, that because he was brought up in a boarding school, he basically didn't have a mom. I mean, he was just shipped off to boarding school. And I know a lot of kids grow up like that, but I just wonder if that's the life you lead, does that dwarf you emotionally? Or does it just depend on the person?
I have to think that it does, and it definitely did in the case of Malcolm, that the character that Lucas is playing. At one point in the movie, she gets him a bicycle, and you just have to think this is the first bicycle she ever gave him. Like that, she picks him up at the age of 12, and when we come into the story, now he's, it's been 12 years later, and you just have to think this is really a 12-year-old boy in lots of ways.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Emotionally stunted. You feel that he is the age when that wasn't that the age when she finally went and got him out of the boarding
Exactly.
school and became a mom when he was 12. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean,
That's
it's really so. Tell me about you. I'm speaking to the director, Azazel Jacobs, the director of the Michelle Pfeiffer movie, French Exit, which you can now see in theaters. What's your background? How did you get into film?
I
Did
was
you go to a boarding school?
I did not. I was raised in Lower Manhattan. Both my parents are artists. My father's an experimental filmmaker named Ken Jacobs, who's been making films since the late 50s and is still at age 87 making films all the time. So I
Wow.
grew up really surrounded by a lot of artists that valued what they were making over everything, including making money. And so there was this sense that art was one of the most important things, at least in my life. And my father, in terms of his films, he's somebody that's never compromised. He's never done a film for any other reason than it's something of his interest. And he taught at SUNY Binghamton film for 30 years, so he could raise my sister and I, and everything else separated that from what his art was. So I grew up seeing this as an impossible example. That definitely wasn't something that I've done enough things for money and for other reasons, but it definitely has had a complete influence on the films that I make and the interest that I have in terms of trying to go to places that I haven't seen before, utilizing all sorts of different tones with the hopes and with the experimentation of not knowing exactly how it's all going to wind up.
So, did this come as a surprise to you how this all wound up and all came together with one of the biggest stars in the world, of the last several decades?
Yes, but I have to say that every film for me feels near impossible, but this film in particular is just not a film that gets made anymore. It's a truly an escape. Like it really is an escape from so many things, and especially from so much that's been going on in this world, and completely of this past year. So I saw this film as being one of the loves and inspirations was that it came from these films that used to kind of get made a lot in the 70s, and I just don't see it seemed very rare then before I made it. Now, post, or let's hopefully post pandemic, I just don't know when a film like this gets made, because it really is. It's a strange story about strangers finding each other, feeling a little bit less strange for people and for an audience that are looking for something off the beaten track.
How early on before the pandemic did this all get concluded, the movie French
Oh, we
Exit?
wrapped right before we finished shooting the Paris portion in just middle of December, but I still had some kind of last bits of pickup, like little things of shooting to do, uh, and that maybe was about 2 weeks before the total lockdown. So a lot of I was in the edit for maybe a month before my editor and I had to separate and kind of work in this remote way, and incredibly the technology was there, and it's was such a blessing. I can't tell you, to be able to escape every day into the edit room, into this world, into Paris with these characters. It's really the thing that I'm hoping that this audience will get as well, as if whoever leaves their homes or gets a chance to watch the film.
Okay. What else would you like to impart to the audience about this film that we have not covered yet?
Oh, I would just say, these actors. It's really Michelle is absolutely incredible. I think that there's a good reason why she said that it was one of her top 5 acting experiences in her career, and that
Wow, that's a statement.
it is. And I think it has a lot to do with not only the support from from myself and the crew, but really with her castmates, and in particular what Lucas Hedges as Malcolm gives her. I think to get to where Michelle gets to with this character, you can only do if you're feeling in really good hands by your co-lead. And I think what Lucas, and I'm so glad you're able to see the nuance in what he brought, because it actually turns out to be, the deeper you're looking at it, the more essential and just incredible mature. Because in a lot of ways, the character that Lucas is playing, Malcolm, is the most mature character in the whole story. He's the most wizened, even though he's also the same most immature.
And by the way, Tracy Letts plays the cat, well, slash the dead
Yeah.
husband, the late husband.
Yeah.
And if you missed any part of this interview with director Azazel Jacobs, director of the Michelle Pfeiffer wickedly funny French Exit, you can download the iHeartRadio app. It is free, and my podcast lives on as Sonstein Sessions, so you could check it out anytime you want. And also the video at our website, q1043.com. And I will be with you tomorrow morning on the Jim Kerr Rock and Roll Morning Show, Q104.3.
New York's classic rock, Q1043.